and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton, and today we're going to talk about a new program approved within the city. It's an arts and cultural district. My guest is the city planner who helped put that together, Alison Alexander. Welcome, Alison. This is really, I think it's this really cool thing because there's already an arts and cultural district there, but this formalizes it and kind of sets it apart. Tell us how this initiative came about.
Yes, this started actually from interest from the community. Several years ago, the Phoebus Partnership, the Downtown Hampton Development Partnership, and some local arts organizations expressed an interest in having such a district. And a few years ago, when the city was updating the Phoebus Master Plan, having an arts and cultural district was one of the top implementation items of the community. So the city staff really began working on putting this proposal together, and earlier this month, City Council did adopt that. At its core, it's an economic development incentive, so it does allow for artists and different arts and cultural type businesses to access some different incentives if they move into certain areas of the city.
So what I think is really cool, it also can help put together sort of a marketing plan for this area. Like I was thinking, you know, if you, there's already so many arts organizations and institutions there that just putting them all together, you know, kind of a little trail, like the winery trails in Charlottesville. You know, you kind of start at the Charles Taylor Arts Gallery, you tour that, you have lunch downtown, you go to Blue Skies, you go to some of the other businesses that are already there, you drive over to Phoebus, do some antiquing, visit the Prince Inc. or some of the other artistic type businesses. Maybe there's a concert at the American Theater, maybe you go to open mic night at the Victorian Station. I mean, there's and I forgot, you have to hit the Hampton University Museum on the way by.
Right, the district does include downtown and expand across Hampton University and into Phoebus. And we have found in researching and looking into these different districts that what really makes them successful is building off of the different districts, and artists and creative types want to be close to other artists and creative types, and that marketing and branding them is very important to them and bringing people into them and giving them an identity. So that's something we can definitely do as a district grows and builds, and finding out exactly what Hampton's identity is, and as people move into it, letting them help create that.
And so when you look at it from a little bit, I mean, I think of being a tourist and going to visit these places, or being a shopper and going to visit these places. But you also think about the workers there and the synergy they can create, because there's a lot of things on this list that aren't performing or visual arts, like Mellon Street Graphics, for example. They've been involved.
Right, yes. Mellon Street Graphics, Jan Miller has been very involved in a steering committee and helping give feedback in the creation of this district. And arts is something that's very broad, as many people will recognize. And our definition for the purpose of giving out incentives considers arts to be very broad, and as the name implies, arts and cultural businesses and institutions. It can include your kind of painter that you would think of when you think of an artist, but also architects, maybe someone who does welding or crafts different types of wares, and also cultural institutions like a museum, or maybe a dance studio that makes original type of production. So it is a pretty broad category.
And so these businesses, hopefully, the ones we already have, like Beauty for Ashes Downtown Dance Studio, we can help them by attracting more similar types of businesses.
Yes, and kind of increasing that creative vibe, and then building that culture and enhancing the creative environment.
I'm so excited about this. So in terms of concrete incentives for either existing businesses to expand or for new businesses to locate, that's not in the full district. There's a couple of pockets where that's okay.
We do have the full district that I mentioned is downtown, Hampton University, and in Phoebus, and then there are 2 incentive zones. That's kind of the core of downtown, and then the core of Phoebus along the Mellon and Mallory Street spines. And the incentives that are provided focus on fee waivers for if you're doing building modifications.
Which you almost always need to do.
Yeah.
And
So-
that, those older buildings in Phoebus need work. There's no
Yeah, so-
question. They need a lot of updating and some adaptations.
Yeah, and even if you don't need to do too much work, but you want to put up a new sign, you could get a fee waiver for putting your new sign when you move in for your new business. Or if all of that's pretty much taken care of, but I'm a painter and want to throw some kind of festival in the park and showcase all of my work, I could get fee waivers for hosting a special event. That is some of the incentives that are built into our incentive package. And then kind of the third piece of that incentive package is through our Economic Development Authority, the thresholds for applying for some of their grants have been lowered since those are usually targeted towards larger businesses.
Right.
We're lowering those thresholds to make them more easily accessible to some of these smaller and startup businesses in hopes that more people can take advantage of them.
And it's a little faster. You don't necessarily have to wait for the full board to meet and approve it.
Yes.
It's an expedited
That's also
approval
correct,
process.
making a more expedited approval process for certain smaller grants.
I think, I can't imagine particularly as an artist, where I'm not necessarily super business minded, but very creative, having to go through all of the processes that we require as a city to ensure that things are inspected and things are safe and all that. So that help with, frankly, not just the cost, but, but the process itself.
One of the hopes of this was to better package it and make it more easy to understand and really put it in a package to say these are all of your options that you have for incentives if you come to this location in the Arts District. Kind of put together a menu of things.
That sounds
for
so
people.
cool. Now, this was a change on the state level that sort of enabled this. And you looked at another locality or two that had them, right?
We have looked at quite a lot of localities throughout Virginia. At one point in time, you had to be specifically approved to have an arts district in your community, but that legislation changed several years ago, and now any locality can have one that likes. So Norfolk has approved an arts district recently. It's been very successful, and Virginia Beach has also recently approved one. They've done great things for their community, so Hampton also hopes to have good success with theirs. And ours does take effect January 1st, at the beginning of the year.
That's good. That gives us time to reach out to people who are already here and talk about expansions and to try to encourage people. Maybe they're in the community, don't have a physical location or are thinking about that, and want to be downtown or in, I'm going to call it downtown Phoebus, because it is that Main Street core area.
Right. And this does apply to businesses that are new to the incentive areas or to businesses that are expanding.
And really, there's a lower threshold for expansion than there would be for a lot of businesses that are receiving incentives. I mean, normally it's, a lot of money or multiple jobs, and here it's much smaller.
It's the creation of one new full-time job or capital investment of $10,000.
So really making it a lot easier and taking the programs we have, but on a lower level to encourage the creative community.
Correct.
I think especially in Phoebus it'll help because what I've heard from people is there's a few retail shops there, but not enough to sort of make a trip of it. So you get a few more arts types or antique or other kinds of businesses, and you've got folks who will come for a day of antiquing or gallery work or whatever, kinds of fun things they're going to do. And then the special events, making that easier, more frequent, should really...
Encouraging some more activation of the spaces.
That sounds great. Allison, is there anything that I have forgotten to ask you that you want to add?
I think we've covered the highlights.
Okay, so if I want to apply for this, granted it doesn't go into effect until January 1st, but I'm making plans in my mind, I'm very excited, what do I do?
This will be processed through the Economic Development Department, so they will be the main contact for that, but you can certainly contact the Community Development Department as well, and we can help you out with information and steer you along the proper direction. But if you feel that you have a business that is a creative type business and you are in downtown or in Phoebus and want to qualify for these incentives, it's actually a fairly simple 2-page application to get yourself qualified. And then once you're qualified, you are eligible for fee waivers for your building permits or for special event fee waivers. and you are eligible for these economic development lowered thresholds, and you will still have to go through the economic development process to be qualified for their.
And in the meantime, we're going to work on a brochure that sort of ties together the key things that are already in that area. I mean, this is going to support also not just the private businesses, but the city has the American Theater, the city has the Charles Taylor Art Gallery and Hampton University Museum. So you have these key institutions, and and the Hampton History Museum, which is also a cultural attraction. And so hopefully by having more, it's going to help our own city initiatives as well as the private things that would pop up in support.
Right.
All right, and we'll stitch it all together. We'll give people a nice listing of what's there and how they can find it.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Allison. I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching. I hope you will visit the new Arts and Cultural District. You don't have to wait for the map. You know some of the key things that are there, but we're going to build on those assets and bring more for you to visit. Thanks for watching.